how have the business interests of Donald Trump been holding up? Sort of the core thing that he does is rent out and sell apartments basically in Trump Tower. They don't do as much of the licensing of his name anymore. They certainly don't build anything, but they do sell and rent real estate. Well, apparently not doing too well, although they have found a bit of a way to make some money. And wait until you find out whose money it is that they're actually making. So starting in March, one of Trump's committees, Make America Great Again PAC, paid $37,541 per month to rent office space on the 15th floor of Trump Tower, a space previously rented by his campaign, according to campaign finance filings and a person familiar with the Political Action Committee. Bear in mind, of course, that like he's not actively running for anything. He's just maintaining these PACs. They're raising money, and then the money is being spent on things like real estate that he owns, which is amazing. The rate that they're paying is about $85 per square foot. It's close to the average for Midtown Manhattan, though it's less than the $122 per square foot that Trump got from Mark Fisher Footwear, who is, like some others, former tenants of his. Now, many of those have apparently gone out of business or moved out of the building, opening up more space for him to potentially rent to himself. But what makes it even worse is it's not just that like they've decided to use his building rather than some other building. It's that they've also just rented out way more room than they actually have any need for so that they can spend more money on it. Under typical office conditions, with about one worker per 175 square feet, the space that he's rented in Trump Tower might hold 30 people. But according to the latest filings, just 3 people actually are listed at that address. Those 3 don't even always work there, according to a person familiar with the PAC. They work from home or follow Trump around the country to places like Palm Beach and Bedminster, New Jersey. Also, for several months, Trump's PAC paid the Trump organization $3,000 per month to rent a retail kiosk in the tower's lobby, even though the lobby was closed, which makes that sort of a weird bit of spending. Oops, $3,000 that were donated to his PAC suddenly became his money. And supposedly, all of this is legal. There's actually nothing in campaign finance law that stops him from spending that much or potentially significantly more and just turning donations into his money. It's an amazing con if you can maintain it. And apparently he can, even when he's not in office.
This is the dirtiest money laundering scheme I've ever seen. It's so lazy. And the worst part is I guess it's technically legal. And to make matters worse than that, like, they're fine with it. People who donated to Trump, it's like the prosperity gospel. They just give the money to him. And what's weird is it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's not exactly that, but people think Trump is rich because he's such a great businessman and he knows how to negotiate deals and do all this stuff. No, he just said that about himself. And then was able to convince people. I've been watching like Sex in the City and The Sopranos, and all they do is references to Trump. Like they talk about Trump all the time. You'll be listening to like 90s hip hop and they'll mention Donald Trump all the time. Not because he was, at that time, he was going through bankruptcies at that very moment. It was before The Apprentice came on, or maybe at the beginning that rebooted him. And even that was him telling you that he's successful and telling you that he's great at all this stuff. So people give him money. That's how he gets good at it. That's how he gets rich, is because he's convinced you he's rich and you give him more money for it. And it all goes right into his pocket. It's sick, but it's brilliant.
It is brilliant. It is brilliant. And I think that your fundamentals are right. Now, I don't think all of them necessarily would be fine with the spending, but I think the vast majority, I mean, they barely cared. Remember those stories we were talking about over the last year that he's still doing when he signs people up to automatically have money deducted from their accounts and it's all like in small print and everything? They barely cared about that. That's like robbery. It's this, Trump is never going to take a plane to your house, kick down your door and steal your valuables, your whatever, your china. Like this is as close to robbery as he is willing to get and interested in getting. And they're pretty much fine with that. They're pretty much fine with that. So look, this to me isn't an issue for Trump, obviously. And it's not an issue, honestly, that really affects the vast majority of the people that watch this show because they're not gonna give money to him. It's not like they're being conned. But I will throw it out there as evidence piece number 5,000 that we need to fundamentally change campaign finance laws. Whether something like this is morally right or whatever, or whether his fans like it, I don't care. It shouldn't be allowed. You should not be able to set up schemes like this to enrich yourself via your donors. If they want to send checks to Trump himself, they can do that and he can pay taxes on it. Anyway.
It's like a mega church. That's it.
Yeah.
And they get high off of this feeling of being part of this larger power, which is Donald Trump, who, by the way, isn't holding church every Sunday anymore. He isn't even doing that. Like he's basically, if a mega church pastor was able to get away with maybe like holding a sermon once every 6 weeks.
Sure.
But people are still chucking money on it. And it's also, it kind of graduates into like this Jesus prospect because they want him to come again.
Oh,
and it builds into that narrative like Christ is risen. Trump will come again.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.